The United States District Court Judge William Orrick issued a temporary ruling on Tuesday to block President Trump's from withholding federal funding from so-called sanctuary cities. Judge Orrick noted that the president overstepped his powers following his January executive order tying federal funding to immigration enforcement. In response, President Trump stated, once again, a single district judge has ignored federal immigration law to set a new immigration policy for the entire country. Ben, as you look at this, I understand that this ruling might embolden cities to think that, hey, the issue's over. But it's a temporary ruling, and there's a lot of room between this and a final judgment. When you see Denver and Aurora as, again, so-called sanctuary cities, you only have, there's various definitions of it. Should they feel emboldened by this decision?
Emboldened, I don't know. I think that it's fair to anticipate more action from the executive on this issue. So I don't think that anybody should feel like this has been resolved. I do think that it's important for cities like Denver, cities like Aurora that have significant immigrant populations that are an important part of the economy, of the workforce, and of the community to continue to do what they have to do to protect their communities and to keep communities whole. I think if you look at Denver, there's been a slow shift from the mayor who started out by saying, oh, we're not a sanctuary city, we're not part of the problem here, to now saying we do recognize that we need to defend and protect people in our communities, particularly those who are at risk. So I don't think that anybody believes that this is the end of the road. I think that, you know, for people that are really discerning adults who follow this issue, it's disconcerting to see that the president doesn't seem to understand what circuit court he's talking about or necessarily how the checks and balances of our federal government work. You know, I'm sorry that it's such a difficult job. You didn't have to take it. So no, I don't think there's any relief on the horizon.
Michael, the ruling specifically cites that Congress is the one holding the purse strings and should handle anything related to funding. Do you think, now the Republican House and Republican Senate, that Congress will respond with answering what President Trump wants to do in executive order, but doing it via Congress and handling it, according to this ruling, the right way?
I think it could happen. I think the problem that you run into, though, is even on the Republican side, there are a lot of differing opinions on how to deal with that. Everything from Paul Ryan has a very different view than some of the more conservative members of the House. And so I think that could be interesting to see. I think a common theme, though, that we're seeing is judicial pushback on executive power. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon. You know, Trump's response, calling out the courts is not surprising. He did this, you know, in the primary, in the general, now as president. And I think, you know, it plays to his base really well, not just because it involves the illegal immigration issue, but also because it involves what he would call activist judges, judges that are pushing back against him, that are out to get him. And so I think a lot of this is actually going to find itself into the Supreme Court, where our fellow Coloradan Neil Gorsuch now is. And so I think this issue, the travel ban, also another issue, that this is going to be, you know, things that happen on and on between the courts and the Trump administration, and Congress might also weigh in.
Patty, what's your advice to the city of Denver and the city of Aurora as they see this level of the news so far on this issue?
Well, I think you can see that Denver is beginning to take some good advice because, as Ben said, initially, you know, Hancock made statements, did that video, then he had to start backtracking. And you see a really careful plan going into place this week where you have Chief White met with the ACLU, met with the People's Group to talk about their questions, answered questions honestly, said what he could do, what he couldn't do, where there were constitutional problems. And then Hancock is now looking at different ways they can change some of the Denver County Court sentencing so that illegal immigrants who are picked up for minor offenses won't wind up getting stuck in jail and being subject to ICE. We also had one of the first people who'd taken sanctuary in Denver picked up this week. So this issue isn't going away, but you can see that the Hancock administration has gotten a lot more organized, is certainly communicating better with the community.
Joey, is this strictly a city issue between Aurora and Denver, things like that, or is it hitting a little more statewide effect?
Definitely a statewide issue. We've had two bills this session regarding sanctuary cities. We had one in the House that would have allowed, that was just absolutely ridiculous, that would have allowed elected officials and police chiefs to be arrested for not cooperating with federal officials. And then we have a better bill that just passed the Senate this week. And in fact, I'm doing my column on Sunday about the sanctuary city issue in Colorado. But the Senate bill would allow you to sue the taxpayers of a city if there were sanctuary city policies. But it's just the politics of this is just fascinating to me. That we've got Republicans saying that we need more federal involvement in Colorado. And we're not that keen on the Constitution after all, because at the State House and in Judge Orrick's order, he says this very well may not be constitutional if it goes before has a full trial. It's very interesting political times in Colorado.
Indeed, indeed. Wish I could put that on a bumper sticker. That's a great idea, Joey.